Alright, so we are back. What we're going to do now is to again set up, in fact, let me just connect another device here. Now it's to load up PC. Alright, I'm going to telnet into this router. I have to set up some interfaces here as well, so I'm going to use a cable, a crossover cable. And set a fast Ethernet connection to my crossover cable and set it up on fast Ethernet 0/0. Pay attention to this one here. I would set an IP address interface on my PC configuration, desktop IP configuration. I'll type 192.168.1.100. Subnet mask, which is classful. My default gateway will be 192.168.1.100, and I wouldn't configure any DNS server for the sake of this tutorial. Alright, in fact, .1, my bad. Alright, I'll press, and I've configured interfaces on PC1. Now again, I am going to go back to my router interface here, which is PC0, right, that is connected to my router, and I'm going to configure the router interface, and I'm not going to use the GUI tool. I'm actually going to use the commands to configure the interface fast Ethernet /0. And how do I do this? First and foremost, I have to get into privilege exec mode, which I'm already in privilege exec mode. Right? So because I have set up my line v2i 04 with a password, so I'm going to go to conf t to get in global configuration mode. Conf t. Right? In conf t, I would type interface, so I'll type int er, and if I want I can press tab and it will finish off the word for me. And I'll type interface fast Ethernet, so I'll just type FAS and press tab and it will finish off the word for me. And I'll press interface fast Ethernet 0/0 because that is exactly where I set up my interface. My cable was connected to that particular interface, and I'll press enter. So on interface fast Ethernet /00, you'll see my prompt is changed, R1 configure interface, IF in terms of configuration interface, and I'm going to type now an IP address, and I'm going to give it my router IP address of 192.168.1.1 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0 classful. I'm going to press enter, and then I'm going to type the command no shutdown to bring up the interface. No shut down, and I'm going to press enter, and you will see that my interface has been upped. If I was supposed to just minimize, alright, you'll see that my interface is up on my showing on the green light on my router. Alright, so I'll press Ctrl C to go back by my prompt. And I'm just going to close down, we'll not fast close down, but let's minimize this. Because what I want to do is to try to show you all in this lesson how I could telnet into my router without using the console port connection. So I'm going to go to this PC1 now. Alright? And I'm going to go to my command prompt. And I'm going to type the telnet command now, telnet, which is the router address 192.168.1.1, and press enter. And you'll see that my port is open and it's asking for a password. So this is just another example. So if I press the password Cisco that I configure on line v2i 0 to 1, you would see that I also have the same command prompt as I had using my console connection. Right? So far so good? Right. To move on from this lesson now, what I would want to do is to configure a secret password. Alright? Before I do that, let me just reload my router. I'm going to confirm this. And in fact, I'll do two things. My password here has been asked for. I could configure, enable the privileged exec mode to have its own password, right? And I could also configure a hidden password. So I'm going to do two of them. How do I do this? I've already been in privileged exec mode. So I am going to go into what? Global configuration mode, which is conf t, right? And what I'm going to do is to enable a secret password, or enable a password first and foremost for privileged exec mode. So I will type the command enable password, and I will type Cisco. So even to get into privileged exec mode and to get into global configuration mode, I would have to have I have configured a password on those lines. I'm going to press enter, and I don't need to press log on anyway. All I need to do is to press exit. And what do I do next here when I reach here? I need to save the files by using the command copy, run, start. Press enter to save the configuration file. And if I was to reload my router, in fact, before I reload my router, let me run my configuration file. Show running config. And you will see that my password, enable password, Cisco is seen here there, online, showing up there now, under host 1. Right? Let me reload my router now. And you'll see what I mean, that a privileged exec mode has its own password. Because I've also configured a password on line 012 as well. So if I reload my router, right? You see how I'm faced with a line console password. So before I get into my router, I have to type a password. And my password that I typed was Cisco. And if I was to get into privileged exec mode, if I press enable, I'm also faced with its own password. So you see different levels of security that it could put up. Now pay attention to this. Right? When I run my running config file, show running config, I notice that my password is being seen. So anybody who have access to my router could see the password, or who probably looking over me when I configure in my router could see my password. What we need to do is to hide that password using SSH. So what do we do? Right? Of course, we go to configuration terminal again, and I'm already in enable. And before I do that, let me just go to conf t first and disable that enable password. But before I disable enable password, I will put enable secret. Right, so I'll go first and foremost, no enable password. Right? And then I will enable a secret password, enable secret. And I'll put the password as Cisco again. Enable secret Cisco, what means Cisco password. Press exit. And what do I do from here? Save the configuration file. Copy, run, start. Right? So if I was to show my running config, you would see that my password is in encrypted form. You see it? Right? See that? Now for my next tutorial, which will be my final one, I am going to show you how to hide the line console password and the line VTY password. As you can see, they're still showing up in when I run my running configuration file. And anybody looking over my shoulder could see what I do.